This month I read 6 books. Let's talk about them. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back. I read 6 books this month in the month of May. We're going to talk about them. I read 1 ebook and 5 physical books. The first book that I read on my Kindle was Firstborn Girls by Bernice McFadden. This was her memoir, and I feel like I learned so much about her. So let me back up. The very first book that I read from Bernice McFadden was Sugar, and I did a review on it. Immediately, I knew I was going to like it. It felt like me. It felt like I was the target audience for that book, okay? It was so good. I immediately read the follow-up, This Bit of Earth. And I knew when I saw that this was coming out, I think it came out a couple months ago, I knew I wanted to get it. I got it. I enjoyed it. It really is. It talked a lot about her time leading up to the point that she became like a published author. It did kind of go over that a little bit, but I feel like the majority of the book was talking about like her childhood, kind of like a coming of age memoir. And I love how it was so like deeply rooted in her family's resilience and her like lineage, how it was very like a major theme of the book was that you are a part of your family. You are a part of where you came from. It does define you, but not totally. Like it's not the only defining factor. And this book really highlights that. It was so good. It was so good. And I've seen a few negative comments or like reviews about it after I read the book. And I could see like how people wanted to see more about different parts of her life, how they didn't really want to hear like trauma story after trauma story after trauma story, traumatic event after traumatic event. But it is what it is. Like it's literally her life. But I thought it was good. Some things like you want to grieve with her. Some things you probably can relate to. I can relate to a few of the things. And then yeah, like I feel like it was a good memoir to have. You know what I mean? And it's been a minute since I've read a memoir from an author. A hot minute. So I was glad to read that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, let me know if you've read it. We're gonna move on. And I don't do these in the order that I read them. I just do them in whatever order I got them stacked up on my lap. So that wasn't the first book of the month, but you know it is what it is. Next, I'm making my way through the Harry Potter series with my kid. He's freshly 11. This one was The Order of the Phoenix, book 5 in the series. And I think, is this the longest book in the series? Yeah. Yes, it's the longest book in the series. And you could tell, like it felt that way. But it was good. Like every time I read this, I'm shocked that it's like as dark as it is. And I don't mean dark like, oh, kids can't read it at all. But I just mean like some of the themes. So when we read these, I like to see, does my son get out of it some of the deeper, like darker themes that I pick up on? Or is it kind of just like, you know, surface level kind of thing? So it's pretty interesting to share our thoughts on it. At this point, I can't predict the future, but at this point, I still rank Goblet of Fire as number 1. You still rank it as number 1? He still ranks it as his number 1. This was good. I'm not gonna lie. It might be I don't know what ranking I would do this in. Right now, my top 1 is the Goblet of Fire and then Prison of Azkaban right now. But this book really goes into like, obviously Harry Potter is still involved in He Who Shall Not Be Named and what he's trying to do. But at this point, Ron, Hermione, and Harry, they're growing up. They're reaching a new level where they're trying to, I guess, like matriculate into their program or whatever, where, you know, matriculate me? Anyways, where they're trying to like take these qualifying exams, and it goes over that. It goes over, obviously, they all like grow and learn in different ways. You get a lot more of the backstory. That was the one thing I liked about this book. You understand a lot of the questions that I had from the first few books. Like, why does Harry have to stay with his aunt and uncle? Like, why does this? Why does that? You understand a little bit more about his stepdad. You get to know Harry Potter's parents. Not stepdad. He just corrected me. You're right. You're right. You get to know more about his godfather. Right. And you get to understand more about Harry Potter's parents. You get to understand more about one of the side characters, Neville, who kind of like made an appearance in a heavier way in the last book too. But this book, you get to know more about him and his family as a whole. One thing I can say about this book, Dumbledore, I was like, Dumbledore, he cold with it. But that's the next book. Next, I read The Last Days of Ptolemy Gray by Walter Mosley. This book, I've been wanting to read Walter Mosley's books for a minute. I'm glad I prioritized it this month. This is my first book by him. I enjoyed it. I did. I like books. I've said this in 10 videos. I like books with elderly protagonists a lot. And it's for a variety of reasons. But one, I like the perspective. I like the POV. I like the wisdom that's kind of embedded into it. I like the themes of aging, the benefits, the drawbacks, some of the stuff that they deal with. I like the family dynamics of it, all of that. Relationships, friendships, romantic relationships and all that. And their relationship with their younger family too. So this book had all of that. It was great. It follows Ptolemy Gray, who is a 91-year-old man who is dealing with dementia. And it just goes over like, is this a spoiler? Hold on. I be having to check, y'all. Caesar lung dementia. Yes, he has an opportunity to see a doctor and try some like experimental drug. And it's just a journey from there. You get to follow Ptolemy Gray. You get to understand what's important to him. Watch him like rediscover some things about himself, watch him avenge. You know, it was a good book to me. I was off put by the relationship with his step granddaughter. But again, the way that Walter Mosley told it, it's not like, you know how sometimes you can write something that's something in a book that you know is like off-putting, but you're not affirming it. You're just saying like, for this character, that's what it was. And it made sense for this book. So that's that. It was good. There's a TV show on Apple based on this book, and it is also good. So yeah. Very glad I got to read this. I got a couple more Walter Mosley books that I'm going to read too, because I like the writing style. The way that this is written, there are no chapters. None. This thing is just flowing and going. There's not a single chapter in sight, but still it was good. Another interesting thing about this book, it actually starts with the afterword instead of the forward. And I feel like that set the tone for the type of book this is. Great book. Great book. Okay, next I'm gonna kind of squeeze these two together because they're very much related. I read these two books, The Unicorn Project and The Phoenix Project. Let me read the subtitles. The Phoenix Project is a novel about IT, DevOps, and helping your business win. And then The Unicorn Project is the sequel of that. It is a novel about developers, digital disruption, and thriving in the age of data. Both of these books I read as part of like a professional thing. I don't want to get it too much into it, but both books that I read out of sheer obligation. And if it wasn't for that, I would have been intrigued by the idea of this book because the premise is creative of these two books. I would have been intrigued because it seems interesting, but I don't think I would have actually read them if I wasn't like in a situation, in a circle where I kind of like was pushed to read them. So I read these two. They're basically books about like IT and cyber as a whole. It talks about this like software company. They have a project. Well, in one book, they have a project. Kind of starts off where he got a promotion that he didn't want, the main character, and he really had to turn around this project in this first book. He really had to like implement systems and really like try to be lean. He had to like get like so many things in place, and you think about like what it takes to actually turn something around, what it takes to redo your processes, get everybody on board, hold everybody accountable. And so much of this is so IT focused. I found it interesting. There's a lot of things to talk about. It's just hard for me to think that people who aren't in IT or don't work in IT or don't work in security would want to read these books, but they were good. Creative. The idea is creative. There's some things in here that's like, I like the idea, but again, I don't think people would read these. I don't know. In my mind, I probably wouldn't have even read them, but I thought it was cool the way that they like introduced some of the concepts. Thought it was cool the way that you could relate, or I could relate to some of the things about where IT or where cybersecurity or where DevOps or where, the software development cycle, where all that stuff fits into business priorities, into the bottom line, into like turning the project around, stuff like that. So saving a project, getting promotions, how you're viewed company wide. Interesting books, very interesting. And I give it an A for creativity because like it was good, but I wouldn't have read it if I wasn't pushed to read it. Last book. And I've been debating if I was gonna do a separate video on this book. I'm probably going to, because I've tried to record a reading vlog for this next book 20 times, and each time I'm like, I can't focus on turning to the camera to say something because I'm so like deep into this book that it just didn't work. But I do think I'll do a separate video on this book. And that's War and Peace by Tolstoy, Leo Tolstoy. Y'all see this mountain of a book? For context, this is Harry Potter. This is just for context, okay? Just for context. This book right here is a mountain peak of a book. I think I am gonna do a separate video going over like, I don't really know exactly what, but I'll go more in-depth review of this book in its own video because there's a lot to be said. This book right here, let me start off with why I read it. One, I was intrigued by it, period. I mean, who doesn't know about War and Peace? It's something that's constantly referenced all over the place. But an old coworker of mine that I used to work with was like, oh, I think you'd love this book. And I was like, what book? And he was like, War and Peace. And I was like, oh, okay. Probably not going to read that right now. And then I took a visit to Half Price Books like 2 weeks after that conversation. And they had this edition, like the nice leather bound edition. And I was like, it's meant to be. I'm just supposed to read it. So that's what I did. It's like 500 or 600 plus characters in this book. Tolstoy mentions every single person that's relevant to, like, not even relevant, every single person, period. Like, how they'll be like, oh, and then they walked into a group, like they walked into a room with a group of 5 people. All 5 of those people in this book, they have a name and they related to somebody else. I'm going to try to put it on the screen somewhere. I literally had a character map beside me, like on my phone when I was going through this, because I was like, okay, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Whew. So yeah, this book was first published in 1869. It's a translated work, originally Russian, and the book is very much centered on that time period. So this book focuses on Napoleon's invasion in 1812. I'm assuming most people, if you know about this book, you probably know about how that invasion ended. But if you don't, I'm not going to spoil it here. But anyways, it focuses on his invasion in 1812 and the war and the peace in the war and the peace that's like enveloped in this. People die, people live, people get engaged, people fight, people eat. And you got everybody's perspective. You got the perspective of the soldiers. You got the perspective of the military leaders. You had a perspective of the royalty, the count. You have the perspective of the peasants. They call them peasants. I don't. You got the perspective of the peasants. You got the perspective of the workers. Like everybody, you have such a diverse view of perspectives in this book. And I grew to appreciate that. At first, I was a little annoyed because I was like, bro, do we really need to know like all this stuff? But then like you grow to appreciate it over time. So yeah, very, very descriptive. And even though, like I said, there is hundreds of characters, it mainly focuses on 3. So you have Pierre, who's constantly fighting for his inheritance. He's an illegitimate son of the Count. Then you have Prince Andre, who leaves his family to fight in a war. And then the last main character is Natasha, who intrigues both of these men. This book has it all. You got romance, you got feud, you got family drama, you got, oh, I have to stand up and step in. You have gender roles, you have all type of stuff. But most importantly to me, this book is heavy on a philosophical angle. Very heavy. It reminded me not in the weight of grandness, but in just like the philosophical questions that were raised. It kind of reminded me of when I read G.K. Chesterton, The Man That Was Thursday last year. Kind of reminded me of that, like some of the questions it was asking, like, what is the purpose of it all? What is love? What determines love? What is your role? Free will versus the external push or whatever. What is your purpose? What is your impact on history? Why? The responsibility of the individual. And then like loyalty to the land. In this case, Russia or whatever. But yeah, it was so, I don't know. I can't say I really had an expectation going in. It's not like, you know, people will be like, oh, this is the greatest book ever written. Not just about this, but about, they can pick any classic and say this is the greatest book ever written. And, you know, that's their opinion. But I didn't go into it thinking like I'm about to read the greatest novel ever written. I went into it like, why is there so many chapters and parts, and how many parts of an epilogue do you need? Like, what, I went in it curiously because I'm like, what are we talking about here? What's in here? Let me see. What, I went in flipping these pages like I want to see what this man is talking about and why people love it. And so I didn't go in thinking like, wow, I'm about to just conquer this relationship. You know, blah, blah, blah. I was really curious. And the fact that the guy that I work with said, I think you would like it. Like, why did you think I would like this? I did, but I wanted to, like, that's why I went in. I went in wanting to know. And I found out it's a rich text. Dense, but not as dense as I thought it would be. One thing I could say, when we get into the conversation about feeling intimidated by books, I'm not intimidated by like the length of a book. Like obviously there's so many words, it's not even funny. I'm not intimidated by the length. What intimidates me off bat is if somebody says how complex it is, like how technically complex it is to understand, or like something like that. That's what like gives me pause and makes me like tiptoe in. For example, somebody recommended to me years ago that I read Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, and I did. But everybody was like, it's so hard to understand. It's so hard to understand. So that's what got me. That's what I was like tiptoeing around. But yeah, I read it. I enjoyed it actually, and I expected it not. I'm not even gonna lie. I expected that I would think it was like mediocre. Like it's good. Like, oh, I can see why people like it, but I don't. I honestly expected that because I was like, it's called War and Peace. Yes, I was being shallow. And see what happens when you shallow? You're wrong oftentimes. I'm talking to me. I was wrong because I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I probably will do another review. It took weeks, this whole month pretty much to get through. By the time you see this, just know it took the entire month of May to get through this book. Yeah. That's it though. That's it. If you've read any of these, let me know what you think. I read 6 books this month. How many did y'all read? Let me know. Let me know. I'll see y'all on the next one.